All right, hello all, and welcome to Revit for Interiors. Our first video here is just going to show you the basics of the Revit program, kind of give you an overview and tutorial of it. I'm here on the Revit home screen. I went ahead and already opened Revit 'cause it takes a second to open, so I don't want you to have to sit through that in the video. But to get to this home page, just double click on your Revit icon or search for it here in the bar in the programs in your computer, and just double click on that icon to open the Revit. This is the landing page and where you will, might take a couple minutes to open, but this is where you're going to end up at here. So we're going to get started and just jump right in. So up here on the left under models, go ahead and click on new, and we're going to create a new project right away to get started and to start learning Revit. So the first thing that I want to do here is select my template file. I want to make sure that I am going to do the interior architectural template. And that's going to be the default for this course that we're going to use every time. So you're going to get very familiar with that. And then here, we do want to make sure we're creating a project, not a project template. So the default selection there is correct. Once you have both of those items, I'll go ahead and click OK. And now I am into a project. All right, so first here, we're just going to take a look around. We're going to get into learning some tools and some modeling components in the next videos. But here, just to start, let's start up here at the very top. We have our um, shortcuts here. And so these are some really common tools that you'll start to use and become familiar with. And we'll talk about some of these as we move further into the course. Below that, we have our various ribbons across the top here. So our first one here is our architecture tab. So this is going to be a modeling tab that's going to have a lot of 3D elements within this tab that are associated to the architecture discipline. So we'll spend a lot of time and work a lot within this tab. Our structure tab is related more to the structure of the building. So think structural columns, beams, floors, load-bearing walls, those types of items. We will not be going over any of these in the course. This is more for a structural engineer. Same thing for steel. That's getting much more into details. We won't be going into that. Precast is looking at precast concrete. Also will not be diving into that. Or the systems. The systems is going to be your building systems, such as your mechanical, your plumbing, electrical, those types of items. But since we are focused on interiors here, we won't be diving into those. Then we have some tabs that have some more tools and elements that we'll be using. This here's the insert tab. So this tab is related to links. So linking in other file types, whether that might be another Revit file, a CAD file, image, those types of items, and also importing those. We'll go through the difference too of a link versus an import. And then we do have a pretty important area here. This is the load from library area. So this is where we're going to load in families. And we'll talk about what families are, but basically think of them as a component, or let's say like a chair. A chair would be a family. So that's how we're going to bring in extra elements into our projects to work with. The annotate tab, will review this as well in future videos. The annotate tab is going to be related to anything that is a 2D annotation. So that's a big distinction here in Revit. We have our 3D modeling elements, and then we have our 2D annotation objects. So we'll talk about those in more depth and the differences between those elements within the program. The Analyze tab is going to be running more of calculations and loads. We won't be looking into that either. Massing and site, again, related more to civil and site, so we won't be covering that. The Collaborate is going to be involved more when you would be working in an office environment, so no need for us to review the Collaborate tab. The View tab, we will spend a bit of time on. This tab has some controls and kind of templates for different view types. And then also, very important here that we'll be getting into is the create section. So this is how we're going to create different views within Revit. All right, we do have right now, it defaults to a floor plan view. And we'll talk about our different view types down here in the project browser. And then also we'll dive into creating different types of views. And the manage tab, we might have a couple things here and there, but overall, that's going to be for much larger projects later on. Add-ins we won't be using, issues we won't be using, and then the modify tab we will spend some time on and actually in the next video. So the modify tab is the tools in Revit. So this is a lot of the things that you do to manipulate and build the model. So we'll go through a lot of these tools in depth, so you can learn and practice with them. All right, so those are our main tabs across the top. At any point in time, you can toggle back and forth between these ribbons up here to get to the command or the tool that you would like to use. Moving on from that, over here on the left-hand side, we have our properties bar. The properties bar is going to provide a lot of information about Revit components. Right now, you can see that it's giving me the properties of the floor plan. And then if I had something that was modeled like a 3D element, let's say a chair again, and I select that chair, all the information for that chair that's built into the family will be shown here. So we'll spend a lot of time talking about the properties bar. Below that, we have our project browser. So the project browser is going to be your roadmap within Revit, within your project. All right, so it's going to have all of the views and the sheets that you have within the project. It does also list out the families as well, but all of these different views and sheets, schedules, legends, which we'll also get into, they're all going to be hosted here in the project browser. And they are specific and unique to each project. So if at any point in time over the semester you accidentally close these, you can get them back quickly by going to your View tab, all the way over right to the User Interface drop down, and then you can just click on them to bring them back. Sometimes when you're working, they can get, you can accidentally lose one or another. So just know that that's an option. You also don't have to have them stacked this way. If you want to stack them in a different order, you can do so. Simply click and pull on the top of the browser window here. If you want to dock one separately here on the side, you can see as I pull my cursor all the way to the right, it's giving me a blue indication of where that will populate to. So if you want to stack them across the way, you can do that. You can also tab them over here on the left. So you have a couple different options there. I actually prefer the default way that they have them shown. Oh, now I've messed it up both times. Whoops. Okay, so I'm going to pull that one back over here, and then I'm going to stack this one below it here. Not all the way across, right there. All right, so that is our brief overview of the way that Revit is set up. And so that concludes this video, and our next one will dive into taking a look at some of our tools in Revit.